Good story, bad story, whatever, they're still putting on a show no matter what, but at the same time, it's a newscast. So the producers are pretty much in charge of the show, and they are putting that show together. My job as an executive producer, I'm in charge of multiple shows and setting the guidelines for these shows and what it's going to look like, and pretty much standards for the show, standards and guidelines, and the producers, they put the show together, making sure it's within those guidelines. So. And I'm the one who I check all their work.
Okay. And so we know there's producers and anchors in your position, but I know a lot of times within news and entertainment in general, there are a lot of positions that people just don't know that exist. So can you kind of walk us through the different positions in the newsroom?
Yeah. So we'll start with the very top. So our general manager. General manager, I think we have 350 employees. Wow. At KNBC alone, 250 or 350, I can't remember, but around that. He has a number of department heads, which one includes the news department. News department, creative services, sales, marketing, HR. There are a number of different departments. So then I'll go to news. News is it's made up of my news director. We have an assistant news director. The news director pretty much does the budget, does all the hiring, firing of talent on the air, and hiring, firing of the managers as well. I'll just say hiring. I won't say firing. The hiring of managers as well, which myself. He's also in charge of setting the guidelines of what kind of newsroom and what kind of news standards we're going to have. So he sets those, they're up there, done. So after that is our assistant news director, who pretty much deals with the content. While the news director deals with the budget, the assistant news director deals with the content and our overall big picture. After that, it's a number of us after that. So we have an executive producer, which is myself. We have a managing editor who is in charge of how we're going to cover a story. So I could say, as an executive producer, hey, I want to cover LMU's event today. And that's all I'll say. And our managing editor will say, okay, this is how we're going to cover it then. And so he'll deal with the reporter in that script and the angle that we'll take on that story. And then I have to put that on TV. So that's our managing editor. And we all collaborate on all this stuff. We have an assignment desk manager who's in charge of the assignment desk. You guys know what an assignment desk is? So assignment desk, basically all the information coming into the newsroom goes through our assignment desk. They have police scanners, they have wire services, they have all kinds of services where they can hear everything going on throughout Southern California, and in some cases, they get information from throughout California and our other stations across the country. So they are in charge of bringing in all the news story, news content in. They're the ones who stand up and say, hey, we have a police chase in Pasadena. Hey, we have a fire in this area. We need to send a chopper or a helicopter. We need to send a crew. Carlos, we need to break in. And I'll get my team together and we'll do that. So that's our assignment desk. We also have, what else? We have a news operations manager who's in charge of our photographers and all of our technical equipment. So he does the schedules for the photographers, how we're going to look, how we're going to shoot video, the way we want our video to look on the air, what kind of technology we're going to use. I mean, we use a lot of smaller cameras now. We use Dejero, we use LiveView, we use our iPhones and Skype and Periscope, and we use just about anything and everything to get things on the air. So he's in charge of that, the technology. And then I told you guys about the executive producers. We have 3 executive producers. We have a morning executive producer who's in charge of our 2.5-hour morning show. Then we have dayside executive producer, which is myself, in charge of the noon, 5, and 6. And then we have an 11 o'clock executive producer who does that Monday through Friday. Then we have a weekend executive producer who's in charge of all the shows on the weekend. So because this is LA, those positions are needed. In other markets, you don't have that because it's not that much news here, news in those markets, but here, definitely. So after that, under us, we have the producer. The producer is in charge of the shows. That's who we're in charge of. And we also have news assistants who help gather video, gather information, and help bring information in for the producers as well. And that's everybody. That's pretty much everybody, in addition to the reporters and anchors, but that's everybody.
Now, do the reporters usually write their stories as well, or do you guys have writers separately?
The reporters, they write all their stories. They write their stories, they collaborate. Each reporter is assigned what we call a content producer, but they're writers. And anything that the reporters need, while they're out in the field, they'll contact the station and they'll contact their assigned producer, who will get them extra video, get them information that they need from whatever place. We have a service called Latiku where the producer can send video out to the reporter electronically, and they can download it on the spot. So yeah, that's what the reporters have.
Cool. And now, when you guys bring on new people, how does that process work? Is there like a normal application process?
Oh, we haze them. We haze them.
Hardcore?
No. So new people. So this is interesting, and this is very, very important to a lot of you getting into the business. You have to network. You have to be willing to do a lot of things that may not be in a job description. And when I say a lot of things, just things around the newsroom as far as work. You know, for instance, when I first got into business as a production assistant, I was in charge of running the teleprompter and getting scripts for the anchors. But on top of that, I volunteered to write some stories because I wanted to learn how to write. I also volunteered to edit in some areas. I volunteered to do some things on the assignment desk. You need to learn anything and everything, and this is not just TV. This is any job you get. You need to learn anything and everything on how the people around you are working, so you can get understanding of what's going on around you, and that could make your job either better, or you'll have perspective on it, and you can understand what people around you are doing. So getting to the business, yes, you need to apply for any and every internship. When a new person comes in, we have a system set up. My team, we have a system set up, so when people come in, they train them on video. We have a person train them on how to edit, because we edit on our desktop. How to edit, how to write. Well, by the time you get to Los Angeles, you have to know how to write. Most of you won't start as writers in Los Angeles. You might, but you probably won't. Not to discourage you, but you have to go out and get other experience first, because when I hire people here, I need them to do the job. I don't teach them. So by the time you get to Los Angeles or New York or Chicago or any of the big markets, you have to know how to write. We are writers first. I consider myself a writer first. I consider myself a great writer, but you have to know. But you have to know how to write. Bottom line, if you can't do that, then you can't do the job. And so, come in with experience, sell yourself, try to go out and try to find someone who has been in that position or has similar experience, so you can know what you're getting into. Because there are some people who have tried to get a job and it's overwhelming, and then they quit within a few weeks. It's intense. It is. It's journalism.
So what do you look for in new applicants?
New applicants, first thing I look for actually is enthusiasm. If you have enthusiasm and you have the will to want to just be the best journalist, the best producer, the best whatever, reporter, whatever you want to do, if you have enthusiasm, then you got me. And I'm like, oh, I want to work with this person. I want to get this person wherever they want to go. So you got me there, and then you have to take a writing test. So if you get me with your enthusiasm, you get the writing test, you do well with the writing test, and you're in. And if I can't get you in here, I'll get you in one of the stations wherever you want to go. But that's very important.
Now, how does that movement happen? Because I know a lot of times anchors are moved from, to Dallas, like just different places in the country. So how does that work? Is it just kind of like when the positions open, or? So
when a lot of people have their own personal career goals. Like some reporters, they want to go to the network. Some reporters, they just want to go to their hometown TV station and they just want to be there. Some people want to be in New York, Chicago, Washington D.C., do politics, or Miami, wherever. So that's one thing. But when typically journalists can do like an average 2.5 years at one particular station, and then they move on to the next station. So you'll likely start in market like 100, make all your mistakes there, understand how to report, when to report, just understand everything about being a journalist, and then you move up. Because again, the more you move up, the more the expectations, they get higher. And people are going to expect you to perform. And so you can't make a mistake. So that's the reason why people start in smaller markets, stay 2 years, go somewhere else, stay 2 years, go somewhere else, stay 2 years, and then they get to wherever they want to be. It took me 16 years to get to Los Angeles. And likely I probably could have been here a few years before, but I wanted to make sure that I had the knowledge and the skills and the insight to understand what I was getting into.
Now, speaking of your movement,
Yes.
you have worked at a number of other news outlets.
Correct.
Can you tell us about that movement? You work at CBS and WFAA, and tell us about it.
So I started in Houston. Houston, I'll just give you a quick start because you guys are going to be following these footsteps. So when I started in Houston, I did an internship, and in addition to, I was going to college, I had to drive an hour to get to the TV station with a beat up car and no AC in Texas, so that was tough. But you just have to have that drive. In addition to doing the internship, I was working at a hip hop station, writing articles, movie reviews. I wrote quotes for the mayor of Houston. I was working at the Houston Chronicle, doing little odd jobs here and there. It was just all production, but nonetheless, I was there. And I was working at my college TV and newspaper. So I was doing quite a bit, and going to school. So I would leave 6 in the morning, I wouldn't come back until almost midnight every single day. So anyway, I landed at KHOU. That was the one place that stuck with me. So there, I just wanted to move up. I wanted to be a producer, and I knew in order to be a producer in Los Angeles or New York, I had to move around and get the experience. So when I wanted my own show, I got with my general manager. We owned a station in San Antonio. Hey, let's go to San Antonio. So a position opened up. I was a 6 o'clock producer there. Something opened up in Dallas where my general manager was, so he brought me there. And so after that, I turned 30, and this position in Miami opened up. I can't turn that down, it's Miami. So I went. Luckily, I went to a really great station, had a really great boss, but I went there, worked for 3.5 years. That same boss got a job as a news director in Dallas, and so she brought me with her, where I became a manager, my first TV manager job. And then after that, I got a call from LA, and so I just took it. But I say that because your reputation and everything that you do is very, very important. You make one big mistake and no one's going to call you for anything. These mistakes that you make in journalism, they will stick with you, and they will stay with you for 20 years, forever. I still know people who made mistakes in a career, and when they started their career, and that's all I think about. And I wouldn't hire them because I don't know if they corrected those mistakes,
right,
or whatever. But so the relationships and your work experience and the people you surround yourself with, that's very important in the start of your career. And your reputation is key. It's key. Don't make any mistakes, and don't piss anybody off.
What kind of mistakes?
These are mistakes where one, on-air mistakes, factual errors, or not being careful. With journalism, you have to be careful with your sources, with your facts. Everything you write. You can't make a mistake like that. Sometimes they're forgiven, but if you do something that can get the station sued, then you won't be forgiven for that. Other mistakes, maybe you broke a contract. That sticks with you, breaking a contract. Maybe you did something that was maybe immoral on the job. Maybe you made that kind of life mistake, which can stick with you. There are a number of things that you can do, but just put work first. Put work first, and you won't have a problem. So.
And speaking of putting work first, I know a lot of times, we were talking about this earlier, people feel as though personal things get in the way of career. I know we're all in college, and it's like different things come up. We're like, oh, should I move here? Should I stay in this relationship? What's some life advice to staying focused and putting career first, basically.
You know, when I hire people, one thing that I try to take in consideration is life experience as well. You know, you may have bought a house. That's important in writing some of these business stories. You may have had a parent with cancer. That's tough, but that still is life experience. You may have had a child. You know, that's life experience. You have different things that you can do in life that can help you. However, some of these life experiences can hurt you as well. Like when you first get out of college, or you're in college, I brought this up earlier, but you know, relationships. When you're in TV, you got to get up and you got to move around. You got to move around. You have to make some sacrifices. You may have to move to a city that you may not want to move to, but it's a step. And once you get in the door, you're in the door. So it can be done, but you know, not to give life advice, but you know, some of these relationships, you just take them for what they are, but just keep your eye on your career. Because a lot of the people that you know now, you're probably not going to hang around with 20 years from now. I can count on my hand. I mean, I had a lot of close friends in college, and I probably communicate with 3 or 4 of them right now on a regular basis. And I mean, out of a group of like 20, you know, all the people in my dorm and all this other stuff. So again, I'm just speaking from my experience, but I just didn't let life get in the way. I didn't let relationships get in the way. I didn't let family get in the way. I made sure I knew where I wanted to go, and I was just there. I was going there by any means necessary. And I just plowed through, stepped over whatever came my way, and I had to let people go. Friends, family, loved ones, just let them go because I knew where I wanted to be. And I'm here now. So,
yeah. And
it's a good payoff. But there are going to be some tough decisions that, as a young person has to make in order to get ahead. But you know, it is you're going to meet a lot of brand new people. You're going to come across a lot of great experiences. You're going to have new relationships. You're going to have all these great new life experiences, yeah. But keep your eye on the prize.
Is there any experience along the way where you were like, oh, I should have done that because that kept me away from this job, or I'm happy I did that because it got me
Well, I
here?
did get married about a year ago, and
Is she here?
no, that was the best thing ever. No, anything, well, luckily someone got to me early. Some of our veteran journalists, they got to me early and said, you know, make sure you do this and this and this and this because I made this mistake. And I took that advice, and that's the reason why I'm giving the advice to you all. And my life has been fantastic. You know, look, there have been deaths in the family that have been a big setback. There have been, you know, just normal life things that happen. You know, injuries, health conditions. You know, the normal life issues that can come up. But you know, you just got to be strong enough to make sure you don't let that one thing ruin everything else in your life. So.
Yeah. Now, Carlos, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I am 25.
Close.
I'm 38.
Okay, so a lot of times for us college students, we're freaking out because we're like, oh, I have to have my life together by the time I'm 25. Mm-hmm. What's the age range really in the newsroom that's realistic that people are?
In Los Angeles, so a lot of my producers and writers, a lot of them it's like 30 and up right now because they went out, they worked at smaller TV stations and they got their experience, and then they brought that experience to Los Angeles. There are some people who are in their 20s, and I don't know everyone's age, but I know it's hovering around 30, and we have a lot of very experienced people who have been in the business for like writing and producing for 20-something years, wow. And they're still with us, and they know LA like the back of their hand, so they are extremely valuable. But they came here when they had enough experience as well, even though it was like 20-some years ago. LA and some of these big markets, they rarely we'll hire like news assistants and people who are just trying to get their foot in their door, and editorial assistants. But after that, they go on to be reporters or producers in other markets. But But yeah, so that's around the age. But I would say grab a backpack, go in another part of the world and just live. Go out and get so much experience and life experience and just go have some fun. Because you're gonna have a lot of years, trust me, we have a lot of years ahead of you to do a lot of work stuff. So right out of college, yes, look for a job, but still just find a way to get life experience. Just have fun. You're young. Everything's gonna be a learning experience. Everything. So no matter where you live, where you go, who you meet, that's a new person, new experience being brought into your life. So don't feel like, and I made that mistake actually because I came from a family that was very traditional, and I thought at age 30 I was supposed to have the job, the car, the house, the wife, all those things. And I remember I was a little depressed when I turned 30, but 30 was the best year of my life. That was the year I moved to Miami and I had this awesome job and this awesome opportunity. So don't feel that pressure. Don't fall into anything that's traditional. Just make it up yourself. Just make your own tradition.
I like that. Now, taking you back to when you were in college, Carlos attended Prairie View A&M University, way back in the Stone Age.
Yeah.
And he studied mass communications and media studies and radio and television, which sounds like you already knew what you wanted to do. Has executive producer always been the goal? Or what?
Not at all. Actually, I started as a business major. In high school, I took classes to be an accountant. I wanted to be on Wall Street, but I wanted to draw cartoons for TV, and so that was in the back of my mind. So my sophomore year, I changed my major to communications, and I worked in the newspaper office, TV office. I visited TV stations, and I met some people who were producers, and I was like, God, I want to do that. I still wasn't sure, and that was the reason why I told you guys that I worked at all these different places, because when I was about to graduate, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, and I just chose one. So this just kind of fell in line, and I just ran with it. Because I think at that age, I had no idea what an executive producer was. Like you guys are sitting here, it's like, what's an executive producer? Why is he here? He's boring me. But no, yeah, I had no idea what I wanted to be at that time. I put feelers out. I tried to understand anything and everything and do a little something of everything until something stuck, and it did. So
what was there an experience? Do you have an internship that really made you be like, hey, I want to do news?
Yeah, it was the internship at the CBS station in Houston.
Okay.
While I was there, I saw everything that the producers were doing. I saw the power that they had in bossing everybody around. Pretty much. My wife's looking at me, rolling her eyes. No, it was one of those things, and I remember I was sitting there, and I was like, God, I'm never going to be smart enough to do that. I'm not smart enough to do something like that. But that was just my own challenge. I had to challenge myself to try to figure this out, and I wanted to master it. So I did anything and everything that I could to understand what they did. And luckily, I was blessed enough to have positive people around me to kind of push me and nurture me and make sure I had gas in my car, because I was making $5.85, and that's it.
Struggles real.
That in a big old city, I was eating ramen noodles every night. I had a mattress, and I had an apartment that was very interesting in an interesting part of town. And that's all I had. But I didn't let that bother me. The gunshots at night, they didn't really keep me up too late. No, I'm just kidding. No gunshots. But no, but I didn't let that get in the way. I knew that I wanted to be successful at something. And so I knew that it was going to be tough, and I just felt, oh, well, I'll live here. It's going to be my story. It's going to be my testimony later on. So anything that I went through, I was like, oh, this is going to make me stronger, and I can talk about this later on. I can say I did that. So
definitely. Now, having worked in different states, and Texas and Miami, Florida, but is there a difference in the way that you guys deliver the news? Obviously the content is different, but the style, do you find it's different in Los Angeles than it was?
It is different. Each TV station has their own set of guidelines. I mean, journalism is journalism, but each TV station and general manager and news director, they have their own way of how they want to present the news. And so as a manager, I have to make sure that I and my team and I are falling within those guidelines to present the news in that style. There are some who are, like, look at the cable stations, cable news stations. Fox, they're very flashy, and they have what's called process storytelling, where they tell you, oh, we went here and we went there to get this information, and this is what it is, and they're very honest with their reporting. As far as very honest with telling you how they got the story. CNN is somewhat like that, but they have a different delivery. They just report the facts, and that's it. And MSNBC is kind of, now that they're changing, it's kind of a hodgepodge of both. They have a little flash and a little pizzazz, and they're getting faster and younger. So, but each cable station, while they're reporting on the same thing, they each have a different style. And so that's the same thing with TV stations.
Do you prefer one or the other?
I do not.
Safe answer.
As long as I feel within myself that I can carry out whatever those guidelines are and they align with the morals that I have, my personal morals, then yes, I can. I'm okay with. As long as I'm okay with those, then I'll do the job.
Right. Now, you guys cover a number of stories. Like you said, there's a zillion things going on. You guys have to narrow it down. How do you pick and choose what you cover? Aside from the big stuff, obviously.
A lot of it, you have to go through, and some stories have to have appeal. Luckily for us, we have different platforms now. You have the web, you have your app, you have your website, you have TV, you have social media. You have a lot of different platforms now where you can get stories out. So if you don't report something on TV, it can be somewhere else. But we choose by, what has the most appeal. What's happening right now? What has the biggest impact? How is it going to impact the lives of Southern California, and how is it going to make them feel after they watch it? So those are some of the criteria that we go through when we choose our stories.
And are you guys ever, like, someone's like, hey, I want to do this story this way, and you're like, no, let's do it this way? Is there ever
Oh yeah. So that
newsroom?
morning meeting, that 9:15 morning meetings. I mean, you can have 15 to 20 people in there. So you have a lot of voices and a lot of different opinions, and everyone is very aggressive about the way they want something covered. So and that's why the meeting is there. That's why we have all different backgrounds. We're a diverse group, and we all talk about how this will impact a viewer like myself, or a viewer in another part of the city, because we have to make sure if something happens in Malibu, I have to make sure someone in Oceanside is going to care. I have to make sure if something happens in San Bernardino, I have to make sure someone who lives in Huntington Beach care. So, you have to go through those types of questions and checklists and make sure it has appeal.
Now, since the news never sleeps, are you always on call?
Not always on call, but pretty much. If any of our employees need something, then yeah, I'll reply. I have 2 phones on me right now. One's personal, one's for work. And if the work phone goes off, I'll reply. I mean, we have access to each other 24 hours a day. I mean, I knew I was getting into this, and I knew, it's not a problem. It's just, it comes with the territory. But they need something. If there's breaking news, I go. That's one thing about our business. When there's breaking news and you work in news, you go. You don't call and say, hey, do you need me? Yes, we do. If there's an earthquake, I know we're going in, no matter what, if I can get there. We have a big disaster emergency plan in place. So where we have food, we have sleeping places to sleep, and this is all a Universal Studios. So we have a plan in place if something happens. I know I got to get up and I go, make sure my wife is okay, and then I'm out of there. So yeah, this comes with the territory. So we have access to pretty much everyone 24/7.
Can you give us a play-by-play, like an example of something that's happened in the past where it was like you had to rush in and kind of what happens and
well, there was an earthquake where there was an earthquake. I had just gotten home. It was, I can't remember the magnitude. I think it was a 4.5, so that's not super strong, but it was felt widespread, and there was some damage in, I want to say, La Habra. And so that was one where I was like, oh, wow, we had 2 earthquakes back to back, and now there's damage. We got to get on the air. So luckily this wasn't too bad, but just got in the car and made sure my wife was fine, and I went in and stayed there until we weren't on the air anymore. We had that situation. Lately we've been having a lot of weather situations where this whole El Nino thing is happening right now. We had the floods in the Grapevine. We had some mudslides in Palmdale where people were buried and highways wiped out. So that was a I would say 6-hour event. We were on the air for quite a while, but we found out about it and rushed out there, and then we got on our web and got on TV. So yeah, that's another one. We haven't had one where, I haven't been here for one that was 24 hours, but in the past, in other TV stations, we've had tornadoes and hurricane coverage and different natural disaster coverage like that, where I had to be, as a producer, be in the booth for 6 or 7 hours just telling reporters and everyone where to go. And on top of that, I had to be a manager at another station where we had to deal with that, and we're just in constant looking for new information for people, because when something happens like that, you turn to a TV. So you have to get all the great information and all this useful information for the viewers. So yeah, we have an obligation to go in as soon as something happens. Everyone who works in TV has to do that.
Oh. Now, when you send the crew to the site where it's happening, do you guys have like extreme insurance? Like, what if, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's so scary.
Yeah, well, one, we don't send them. I mean, we weigh all that stuff. You know, we make sure we have emergency kits and all that other stuff for them. They're not going to put themselves in danger. If they feel like they're in danger, then they say so, and we pull them out. On top of that, we'll have, we're just in constant communication with them, and we're monitoring. Like, we sent someone to the hurricane in Mexico, and we're making sure he's okay, making sure he's at a hotel where he and his photographer will be safe. And we're not going to put them in a bad situation where they can die.
Good.
There are situations where the network reporters are covering war and conflicts, which that's a tough situation as well. But there are lots of checks and balances in place to make sure that they're safe, including hiring security that can go along with them to make sure that they're safe.
How does that work? Is it like the rookies are the ones
to work with us. We get a lot of applicants, but keep applying. We have some for every season pretty much. We had our summer interns are gone. We have our fall interns going on now. Spring will start. I think we're choosing our spring interns right now, and even some people are applying for their summer internships as well. So you got to do that stuff early because there are only so many slots, but you have students from all across the country who want to work in. I mean, this is the TV capital of the world, right? So working in any capacity in TV is a pretty big deal to put on your resume. So
what do the interns do in the program?
The interns. So there are several tiers of what the interns will do. You'll go through several different departments as far as the news department, the sales department. I'll speak about what we can do in news, but in news, you'll sit with the you'll sit with the producers for a while, see what they do. Then after a few weeks or a few months, you'll go over to the assignment desk. After that, you'll follow a reporter. After that, you may follow a photographer, and it depends on what you want to do as well. If you want to be a photographer, you want to be a photojournalist, then you will spend more time with the photographers. If you want to be a producer, you'll spend more time with the producers. You'll also hang out with our investigative reporting team, which they do all the cool stuff. They go out undercover, they do all the shoots, they'll send maybe an intern or a news assistant into a store as an undercover person to get video. So yeah, you'll bounce around in different places, but you have to perform. It's a paid internship, so you have to perform.
Now, what advice would you give to students wanting to go into broadcast journalism? What can they do now?
What can you do now? Read. If you don't like to read, then you cannot be successful in this business. Read a lot now, understand what's going on around you, understand what's happening with social media, which I'm sure you all do. Understand everything that's happening with those different types of tools. Apply for internships. Try to find someone who works in the business, whatever you want to do. And we have social media now. Reach out to them. Try to become their friend and ask them questions. I get those on LinkedIn. I get those people all the time when they're just asking me questions. Hey, I want to become this person. What are the steps that I can take? Hey, tell me about your day today. I saw that you have breaking news in Los Angeles. What happened today? And I'll just, you have people who will take the time to do that. We used to sit where you guys are today. So, we know that we have to help people along because people helped us. So, yeah, reach out, network, go to a lot of events, read a lot, understand social media, and apply for lots of internships across the country, not just in LA, across the country.
Now, a lot of times when going into either the news industry, entertainment in general, people say that grad school is not that important because it's based off of skill and experience. Do you think grad school is something that people going into broadcast journalism should consider, or kind of up in there?
I would, that's kind of a personal, I don't want to say no because anytime you get more education is just great. So if you want to go to grad school, then I would say go. It's not really, it won't give you a leg up in getting a producer or reporter position, but that education is always like a plus. If I get a resume and someone went to grad school to understand journalism a little more, then that piqued my interest. This is all about experience. If you can write a script, if you go to grad school and you can't write a script, then you're not going to get the job. If you go to grad school and you can't produce or work those long hours or cover breaking news, then it's not really going to help you. But I would say if you want to further your education, just go ahead and do it because at the same time you can go and get that work experience as well. But I can't say that graduate school is going to get you in the door and get you the best job. I can't say that that's going to happen in journalism.
Now, which position would you say has the most application traffic? Like, which position do people really want to get into? That's the hardest to get into.
The hardest to get into? I would say reporter positions. Reporter positions because there are only a number of slots. There are a lot of people who want to be reporters and they're passionate about being reporters, but it's tough. It's tough because there are lots of dynamics that come with being a reporter. Speaking ability, having the background, having the look, having each TV station has a different standard for what they want out of reporters, so it's kind of tough. Sometimes TV stations are looking for something specific. There are great reporters who don't do great TV. And by that they can write a great script, but they can't go out and get the great video. So there are just so many different things that you have to do to be a great reporter, and only the best make it. And so I would say that's the toughest position, because when we screen reporters, it's like, oh, wow, let's make sure it's a long checklist you have to go through to make sure that, yeah, we want to hire them. And that's at TVs across the country. So.
Now with KNBC, I know it's hard to say for generally, but for KNBC specifically, what would you say the ratio between female reporters and male reporters? Is it competitive, or is it more like, is it pretty spread out?
It's competitive. We have more female I believe we have more female reporters than we have male reporters. You should have told me to get this information before I came here. I could have.
What do you see when you're in the newsroom?
No, but we have more female reporters than male reporters.
Okay.
And it's not something that we're like, oh, well, we have to have more of this than that. It's just happened that way. We have a lot of great, highly skilled people there. So.
Now, speaking of being highly skilled, there's this little thing called an Emmy that a lot of us know what that is. And between the two of us, one of us has one or two or three. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I do have a few Emmys. I think I have four. I have four.
It's crazy.
No, you guys are going to get into this, and I didn't do it by myself. I can't say that these Emmys are just because of something that I did. I was part of a team, and so I won some as a producer, which, you have a director, you have the producers, you have the writers, you have your managers, so my name is just on it as the producer. It's one of many people who are part of this,
Still.
And the same thing with the managers. With the Emmys that the station won here with newscasts that I was part of. We have a team, of people. So I can't say, even though I'm a manager, I can't say that it was just one thing that I did. It was a team that won this Emmy, and my name is just happened to be on there. How
cool is that? When you got the first one, you opened it, was it like?
Well, the bad thing is, my first two Emmys, I've never accepted an Emmy on stage. I've never, because the first one that I won, I already moved. I won it in Dallas, but I had already moved to Miami, so I didn't go to the event. So I won that. Then when I moved from Miami, I won one there. And then, again, when I moved to Los Angeles, I won one back in Dallas. And so we did win two of them here, but, and I did go on stage, but I let someone else, pick it up. Because I was one person out of an entire team.
Right. Take the credit, Carlos.
No.
Where are they? Where do you put them? Is it like on display on your mantle?
They're sitting in their boxes.
What? Lies. Are they really?
When you win your first Emmy, it's like, oh wow, I want this right in front of my door. I want everybody to see this. I want to wear it on my necklace. Yeah. But after a while, it's just, you get proud. It's a great acknowledgement, but again, they're awards. And one thing about awards, yes, it's a great acknowledgement, and then it's like, okay, what else can I do? What else can I do? What else can I do? So one thing about with people, I tell people this all the time. It's one thing to get to LA, but it's one thing to be able to stay here. You have to maintain that award or that job or that position. So now that I have an Emmy, and you can put Emmy Award winning in my name, I have to live up to it. So that's what I focus on. Like, okay, wow, we won for that. Okay, how can I take it to the next level? So you're constantly thinking about how can I improve.
So cool. And on that note, I know we're winding down on time, but now that you have Emmys, I mean, you have your dream job, where do you see yourself in 10 years professionally?
Wherever my wife wants to see me in 10 years. No. You know, I don't know. We just bought a house. We're here in LA. We just want to be in LA. I'm having a good time at work. I'm having a good time outside of work. We're just coasting right now. You know, I want to work in TV in any capacity that I can. I'm enjoying the position that I have now. I have a few things in my head that I want to do, but you know, it's far off from now. You know, I have so much to learn, so many people I want to meet. I just want to learn more and more before I go on to another level.
I'm sure whatever you do, you'll kill it, no doubt.
I'll try.
Can we have a hand for Mr. Carlos Hopkins? Thank you for coming, Carlos, and thank you all for coming. Afterwards, we have a reception in the back that Miss Linda Bannister brought for all of you. And please join us for our next Roar Talk event. It's going to be on November 8th with Lang Fisher, who's a writer for 30 Rock and The Mindy Project and The Onion. So if you're interested in that, please do join us.
Oh, that person's cooler than I am.
Don't say it to his face,
come
okay? No. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.